Welcome back to Wiseman Company, everyone. Ben here again, and today we're going to talk about AR-15 trigger upgrades. But first, do you need one? That's the real question. I see a lot of folks, as soon as they run and get an AR-15, the first thing they want to do is drop a new trigger in there. Let's ask the question of why. Why do you think you need an upgraded trigger? It's not a low-cost investment. Most upgraded triggers, a decent one, is going to cost you anywhere from $100 to $200, somewhere in that price range. You could spend that on ammunition, you could spend that on training, which I think you would glean a lot more from as far as your skill set goes than just upgrading a trigger. Now, I'm not saying upgraded triggers are bad, they definitely have their purpose, but let's answer the question of why would you need one first. And before we go any further, go ahead and jump down in the comments, leave me the reason why you wanted an upgrade trigger. No judgment here, just having a conversation. Why did you upgrade your trigger? And what did you upgrade to? Because I'm generally curious. Let's talk about the obvious answer, at least in my mind, the obvious answer is performance. Specifically, at further distances. So I want that shot to break exactly when I want it to break, or when I have my sights exactly where I want them. With a better trigger, it is less movement on the gun when you are trying to make a precise shot. With a heavier, grittier trigger, it is more pressure, more influence into the gun while you're trying to make a precise shot, if that makes sense. So I want to eliminate the pressure, the influence my body, my hand is putting into the gun when I'm trying to make a precise shot. So for me, performance, but specifically on precise shots or further distance shots. Some of you might say, well, I want to run the gun faster. That is a benefit, can be a benefit, but do a lot of us need to run the gun faster? No, a lot of us need to start making accurate hits when we mean to, putting bullets exactly where we mean to, before we run the gun faster. So yeah, you can run the gun faster with a better trigger. Absolutely. That is fun, although I wouldn't recommend it right now because ammo is not just something you just want to dump onto the ground, as fun as it is. So yes, running the gun faster as far as performance goes, absolutely, you can run a gun faster. And the last reason is it's America and you can do whatever you want. It's your gun, put whatever you want into it. Again, no judgment here, do what you want. Now that we answered some of those questions, or we got behind the why, let's talk about what you might want or need as far as the trigger goes. There's two-stage and single-stage or one-stage triggers out there. A lot of folks still like to use two-stage or have been using two-stage trigger, and what that is means there's a little bit of take-up in the beginning, and then you'll hit a wall and the shot will break. I'll roll in a clip of a Geissele two-stage. Geissele is very well known for their triggers, and you can see what I mean here. There's some take-up, you hit the wall, the shot breaks. People like that because you're on the trigger, you have some prep time, and then the shot will break. I personally like a single-stage trigger. Some of you out there are saying, yes, I like a single stage trigger because I want to be surprised when the shot goes off. I never want to be surprised when the shot goes off. I want to press out shots exactly when I want that shot to go out. I just don't want the take up. I don't want any fooling around prior to hitting that wall. So single stage is just one stage. You're on the wall, pa-pow, it's going off. That's what I prefer. I run that in the majority of my guns. I don't think one is better than the other. It just depends on what you want. All right, so you saw the Geissele two-stage. There's a lot of good two-stages out there. I think if I was gonna get a two-stage trigger, I'd stick with Geissele. Again, I'm a single-stage guy. Let's talk about single-stage triggers. Some of you may know I'm a big fan of Velocity triggers, and I think I have one here. Here is a Velocity 3-pound drop-in single-stage trigger with a curved shoe. Velocity has been really good to me in the past. I have these in a lot of my guns. If I had to change one thing about this trigger, I prefer a flat shoe. And again, that's total personal preference. I don't think one's better than the other. I like the flat shoe because my finger, the pad of my finger just kind of rests nice and flat on it, and I feel like I get more leverage on the trigger for a cleaner press. If you're used to more of a curved trigger, go that route. The nice thing about Velocity is they make a variety of trigger shoes to choose from. They even have an MPC trigger, which sets the trigger a little bit further forward. So if you want a more of a precision trigger, I would choose that one over maybe one of these standard shoes. Again, it's all personal preference. So Velocity triggers, I think you can get them for around $150, somewhere in that range. They are drop-in. That is another thing I'd like to point out for those of you that are shopping for triggers. I highly recommend finding a drop-in trigger, and what that is, it's all one piece. As you can see here, it has aluminum housing. It still uses those 2 trigger pins that are going to go into the lower receiver and through your trigger. It's just really easy to install. It's all one piece. There's less to go wrong. It's a little bit of protection on it. I like the one-piece triggers. This one is anodized green. I think they do all anodized green housing. Not that that matters. Easy to take in, take out, clean when you need to. That's just another perk. Again, if you're looking for a trigger, I would highly recommend a one-piece drop-in trigger. Another trigger that I've recently messed with is the Timmy Trigger, which looks exactly like that Velocity. It looks identical. And I'm going to be honest, Timmy is a household name. Everybody knows Timmy triggers, and I've used them in bolt guns, had good success. But this one I got for the AR-15 was difficult to install, and it seemed like the reset lagged for the first 300 rounds. Like, it was very sluggish to reset. It kind of made me nervous, honestly. So I don't think I'll be picking up any more Timmy triggers. I didn't have a good experience with it. I'll try to roll in a clip of why the install was difficult, because the spring legs of the trigger were actually setting over top of the set screws. It was just kind of a pain, unless there's some magical trick of getting this in that I didn't know about. But it was just kind of a pain to install, which kind of took away from the whole point of getting a drop-in one-piece trigger, if that makes sense. So Timney didn't have a good experience with. I'm going to stick with Velocity. I don't get paid by Velocity. They have sent me product in the past, but I don't get any money from them. I have bought triggers from them. I just like them, so I'm sticking with them. Next, I'm going to roll in some popular triggers and pricing so you can see it. I just covered the ones I've used. So I've used Geisley, Timney, and Velocity. I've messed around with the POFs and things like that, but not enough to really give you guys a good analysis on it. I'm sure some of you guys out there have used them, but I just wanted to cover the 3 that I've really used, because that's what I know best. It's accurate information, it's truthful information. But I'm going to roll in some prices here of different triggers so you guys can see. You can see it can be a very expensive investment. There are cheaper ones out there. You're just going to figure out which one you want, but I want you just to see that what you might be able to do with this money if you weren't going to buy a trigger. Next, let's talk about MilSpec triggers. We don't want to leave those out. For those of you running MilSpec triggers, I don't want you to feel like you're at a disadvantage or you're some sort of peasant because you haven't upgraded that. Some MilSpec triggers can be fairly decent. If you look at the BCM ACT trigger, I think you can get them for 60 bucks. It's a little bit more refined, a little bit more polished up. It's actually a decent trigger. It's got a good weight on it. It's not gritty. It's not bad. Nothing wrong with that trigger. For a lot of the standard 2-stage MilSpec triggers coming out from, Anderson, Palmetto State Armory, Aero Precision, these are triggers that they're outsourced, probably all from one spot. They're heavy, gritty, but they're not worthless. You can get the job done with a MilSpec trigger. Plenty of people do. Some of you out there might even take those MilSpec triggers, polish them up, refine them a little bit, and they're not half bad. Again, nothing wrong with learning on a MilSpec trigger, increasing your skill level with a plain trigger. I just want to have the conversation and talk about when it might be time to make the leap from that. So I have guns with MilSpec triggers on them, and I leave them in there because I don't want to, not necessarily forget what they feel like, but I want to cover all my bases. I want a healthy dose of reality once in a while. So I do have guns with MilSpec triggers in them, and when I think it's time to upgrade them, I will, or when I think it's worth it, I will. So for those of you still running a MilSpec trigger, don't worry about it. Run it hard, enjoy it, tune it up if you know how to do that, if you're handy, and figure out when it's time to upgrade. All right, guys, really just wanted to have a conversation because I see people go out and they think, man, I need to get a brand new gas pedal because I just got an AR-15. It's going to really increase my skill level, and that's not the case. There is a time and a place for these upgraded triggers. They can be money really well spent, but they are not a band-aid or a fix-it for poor skills. They're not going to fix that. You gotta earn those skills. You gotta put in the time, and you gotta put in the money into ammo and training to increase those skills prior to upgrading things. and I just wanted to think critically about this, start a conversation. Again, jump down those comments. I want to hear from you guys. What triggers are you using? What has worked in the past? What hasn't worked in the past? Am I way off base? Let me know. I enjoy having a conversation with most of you. YouTube can really turn out the scum of the earth, and you'll see those comments down below. But for the most part, I enjoy talking with a lot of you. It is good conversation, and we can learn from one another. So thank you. Guys, go over to wisemancompany.com. That's the best way to support us. We sell a ton of great gear over there. All the slings, split fixes, ammo bags you see in this video. You can all source those over at wisemancompany.com. Again, that's the best way to support us, and we are so grateful for that. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. We'll see you on the next video.